voting machines in an already rigged two-party system. We'll be talking about that in this video. First, here's a little bit of background from CNN.
This is where I came the day that the warehouses are open to the candidates to inspect. So I came here with an old college buddy. He grabbed his camera, and I asked him to show me how the machine worked. So I just started fooling around with the machine. And it's when I pressed the button next to my name, and then I look down and I see Mr. Gambaluka's name in the display when I press Susan Bernecker.
What do you think?
All too common, unfortunately.
Well, she obviously wasn't too pleased about that,
As you can imagine.
as I can imagine, yes.
So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here talking about the voting fraud with the rigged voting machines. Suffice it to say, when you have a system that has been shown to enable that type of fraud, they're probably using it for something. You don't put the country on that sort of a system without having a plan to utilize it. But and Bev Harris, who's interviewed here on Lou Dobbs on this clip, has done a lot of work on that with black box voting. Certainly encourage everyone to check that out. Alex Jones, of course, interviewed her recently, and he's speaking out on this issue as well. But what I would like to talk about, because I've done a little research myself, and I haven't heard anyone really talking about why they would want to do this. If you recognize, like a lot of people do, that the system's rigged anyway. I mean, why would you need these electronic voting systems to rig something that's already rigged? It's already a rigged two-party system. They're both different arms in the same body. It doesn't really matter who is elected. We see the same thing with McCain and Obama. There's really no choice there. These are different masks on the same face. So I did some thinking about this, and what I really believe is that I think they are rigging the votes, but I don't think they're doing it to tip the election, for a Republican or for a Democrat. I think what they're actually doing is they're rigging the votes to make them as close as they possibly can, which we've seen in the last two elections. These insanely unrealistic close votes that show that the country is divided almost evenly, creating a situation where there is this civil unrest and this disunity amongst people, where you have half of the population against the other half. And those are the kind of environments where the people who are really in control of things really thrive in, which is why they engineer the same type of sectarian violence in Iraq that they're probably planning to engineer in the U.S. But what I would like to do right now is go to a short clip. It was created by a YouTube user, Enough Respect, from an Alex Jones broadcast, showing the sham of the two-party system, how they prop one another up. So we'll do that, and then after that, I'll get into some more specific predictions on the election, and then we'll wrap up the video.
I wanted to draw a picture for listeners out there, a very simple, crude picture that describes effectively the false left-right paradigm. The Republican Party props up the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party props up the Republican Party. Okay? So the current two-party system has been dominated and bought up and controlled by the elite that sits atop it. Now, the elite with a one-party system would not be balanced on top of one party. They would be subject to being toppled, being pushed over easily. But you put the two parties up against each other, they form a royal arch. And now it's very hard to separate those two because they're leaning up against each other. I mean, this is really simple, but I want to explain this to people. Here's the political field, and this is where the population resides. And then we supposedly, through the grassroots, come up into the political party. Okay? And then they lean on each other, as I was saying earlier, and support each other. If they're standing alone, the pressure of revolution or of new power structures will easily topple it and blow it over. But leaning together, it's not going to fall down. Okay? Now, I know that's simple, but let me give you an everyday example of this. As I said, the left sees all of these evil mainline Republicans who we know are liars and who the media even exposes as being liars. They see them lying about everything else. So if the Republicans come out and say, we're against a global carbon tax, well, then by God, I'm for a global carbon tax. And so that's how the two sides leaning up against each other give the other side support. And so Democrats over here, Republicans over here, Republicans attack Barack Obama. And then the Democrats attack John McCain. And then the population who's down here is trained to see John McCain as representing them personally, as being their daddy, of where their personal power comes from, of their camp, their brand name, their brand of soda, their brand of automobile, Ford or Chevy. And so this is a controlled paradigm. And so we have Republicans attacking Democrats, and that's the force against them. And you have Democrats attacking Republicans, and that's the force against them. And really, it's one unit supporting themselves and containing revolution, so that the people who were down here never learned that there is a world outside of this controlled paradigm. We are locked within the left-right paradigm. And then it becomes this huge pageant, this huge distraction where we analyze every facet of the two political parties, never realizing they themselves are simply a front or puppets for a larger power structure. Now, this is incredibly simple, but that's how this works. And then the two parties can limit the issues that are debated to this controlled paradigm. They can limit the scope of differences, which, if you look at it, there's almost no difference between the two, instead of getting the people to look outside the box at the wider world.
So I hope all of you will watch that full version of that video if you haven't seen it already. That was just some segments from it. If you have a power structure like this already in place, why would you need to rig votes? So I do think it is because they have that kind of control structure. They don't really care who wins, because no matter who's in office, the government still wins, and they are the real government. So I don't think it's to tip the election in the favor of Republicans or Democrats. This sort of division really is the whole purpose of it, and people are stuck within this left-right paradigm, and that's where they want people to be stuck. And I mean, how can you manufacture division any more completely than having these close 50% votes for elections? And it's been that way for the last decade. And you see the media predicting that it'll be that way again. They're talking about Obama's supposed voter fraud, alluding to the fact that maybe he's behind some type of organization, Acorn, that's been caught doing some crazy things with voter registry. And they say that this election could come down to 1,000 or 2,000 votes. Kind of a bizarre statement to make, really. Kind of a bizarre statement. I heard that on CNN. So I think there is an agenda there. I think as far as specific predictions go, I will make a few. I think that most likely it's going to go to Obama, and it's going to just barely go to Obama. And if not, I think it's going to just barely go to the Republicans. And I think either way, what they're going to do is they're going to encourage civil unrest. They're going to promote this idea that people have been cheated, that the election was illegitimate, encourage revolt, and then use that revolt as a justification for further tyranny against the population. But I would like to know what you think. Do you think that these electronic voting machines are rigged? And for what purpose do you think that is?